Welcome, travelers of the mind, to this serene haven where human warmth defies the most relentless cold. Today, our journey will take us to the vast and enigmatic landscapes of Siberia, a setting that, at first glance, seems inhospitable, but which reveals itself to be a cradle of extraordinary stories. We will delve into human adaptation in Siberia, a theme that resonates with the tenacity and courage of those who made the impossible their home. Here, amid the dancing snow and the winds that whisper ancient secrets, resilience is not just a virtue but a way of life. We'll explore the contraptions and techniques of endurance developed over centuries, from ingenious architecture that retains vital heat, to natural resources skillfully harnessed for sustenance, to the unwavering human spirit that finds beauty and purpose in adversity. Hear the stories of pioneers, nomads, and permanent residents, whose lives are living testaments to the ability to thrive where few would dare remain. This is an invitation to slow down, to let the words envelop you like a warm blanket on a freezing night. Allow yourself to journey through this narrative, celebrating the ingenuity, tenacity, and profound lessons of adaptability that Siberia has to offer us. May this experience be a balm for the soul, a reminder of the strength that resides within each of us. How is it possible not only to survive, but to thrive in a place where the very air can freeze your breath? This question, which at first glance seems like a simple challenge to logic, is actually a portal to the deepest layers of human adaptation in Siberia. It unfolds like the whisper of an icy wind across an endless landscape, revealing the complexity and beauty of resilience, and inviting us to feel the warmth of the human spirit where there is only cold. As we prepare for this journey, I'd like to know, where are you following us from today? And how does the air feel around you right now? Is it sunny, mild, or perhaps a hint of the chill echoing our Siberian landscape? Share in the comments. Let's build this space of connection and diversity together, celebrating the multiple ways of feeling and experiencing the world. Now, please find your most comfortable position. There's no need for notes or keeping your mind alert. Allow my words to flow gently around you, like the light mist rising over a frozen Siberian river at dawn, or the snowflakes falling silently, each carrying stories of resilience, adaptation, and the inexhaustible strength of the human spirit. This is a space dedicated to exploration and relaxation. The content presented here is purely for educational and wellness purposes and is not a substitute for professional advice of any kind. With a relaxed body and an open mind, we are ready to begin our journey. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and allow yourself to be carried away. The central concept of human adaptation in Siberia is not just survival, but the creation of life and culture in one of the harshest environments on the planet. Imagine for a moment the extreme conditions, temperatures that routinely plummet below 40 degrees Celsius, howling winds that seem to tear at the very soul of the landscape, and vast expanses of land covered in snow and ice for many months of the year. Historically, these conditions were seen as insurmountable barriers, a natural limit to human expansion. The perception of impossibility hovered like an icy mist over the horizon. Yet human ingenuity has proven to be a more potent warmth than any cold. Technological advances, often simple in concept but revolutionary in application, and profound human adaptations have transformed the landscape. Think of the izbas, sturdy, insulated wooden houses with their thick walls and wood-burning stoves that are the beating heart of every home. Envision the food preservation techniques developed to withstand long winters, hunting and fishing adapted to the icy rhythms, and the ingenious use of furs and hides for clothing that protects against the most biting cold. Siberia's cultural identity is intrinsically linked to this struggle and triumph. Warm hospitality, strong community, and a deep connection with nature, even at its most challenging. Every structure, every resource, every tradition is a testament to the ability to not only endure, but to flourish. Siberia, therefore, is not just a place of extreme cold, but a living museum of extraordinary human ingenuity. Now is the time to step back in time, to feel the primordial cold that enveloped the first attempts to settle in this vastness. Imagine for a moment the first explorers, the ancient hunter-gatherers who dared to enter these frozen lands, perhaps millennia ago. They were driven not only by the need to follow migrating herds or the search for new territories, but by an innate curiosity, a distant promise of resources in an unknown world. Their journeys were silent epics, where every step in the virgin snow, every campfire lit, was a bold gamble against relentless nature, a true ode to human persistence. The scenes that unfolded were of raw and magnificent challenge, almost mythical in their simplicity and grandeur. Think of the first groups without maps or sophisticated weather forecasts, facing blizzards that could last for days, with visibility reduced to near zero, the wind cutting through their skin like invisible blades. Their initial shelters, constructed from the skins of sturdy animals and mammoth bones, offered tenuous but vital protection against the biting cold that seemed to penetrate to the marrow. The search for food was a daily battle, a dangerous dance with the wild, where hunting mammoths, reindeer, and bears was not just a matter of caloric sustenance, but of sheer survival, a guarantee that the clan would see the sunrise the next day. Fire, once a mere comfort in milder climates, became the guardian of life, the beating heart of each camp, the only source of heat and light in a world of ice and darkness. We can draw parallels with the great human migrations that shaped our planet, such as the audacity of crossing frozen continents via the Bering Land Bridge over 15,000 years ago. This epic crossing echoes the same determination and pioneering spirit. Like the ancient navigators who launched into the unknown ocean, trusting only in the stars and their courage, these Siberian pioneers faced a horizon, not of water, but of ice and endless forests, each promising both danger and untapped potential. The limits were clear, brutal, and non-negotiable: physical exhaustion, the hunger that lurked in each harsh winter, the freezing that silently claimed lives. Many perished, yes, but each loss was a lesson etched in the collective memory, a crucial adjustment in hunting strategies, shelter building, and clothing. It was evolution in real time, driven by sheer necessity. Technological advances, though rudimentary by modern standards, were, in their context, incremental and utterly revolutionary. The discovery of how to use bones and antlers to create more effective tools for hunting and butchering, the meticulous art of tanning hides to create warmer, waterproof, and lighter clothing, the invention of animal-drawn sleds to transport heavy loads through deep snow. Each represented a quantum leap in adaptability. They learned to read nature's signals with an intimacy we can barely conceive of today. The subtle direction of the wind that heralded a storm, the migratory behavior of animals that signaled the arrival of winter, the nuances of snow color that could indicate a safe path or a deadly trap. The concept of horizon in Siberia, for these early inhabitants, was not just the distant line where sky meets earth, but the ever-shifting frontier of the known, the limit of human patience and ingenuity. It was the promise of a new camp to be established, a new food source to be discovered, a safe place to spend the night under the northern lights. The lessons learned from these early, arduous experiences were the cornerstones of Siberian culture: the vital importance of tribal and familial cooperation, the need for a deep and practical respect for nature in all its manifestations, and above all, the unbreakable determination to persist, to find beauty and purpose even in the most adverse conditions. It was the seed of the Siberian resilience we know today, a tapestry woven with threads of indomitable courage, infinite patience, and an unwavering will to transform the unforgiving into home. Now we delve deeper into a paradox that defines the very soul of Siberia, the way its most intrinsic structures and elements seem frozen in time, but are, in fact, living layers of continuous adaptive evolution. It is like observing an ancient river of ice that, at first glance, seems immutable in its silent grandeur, but which, in its icy depths, moves slowly, sculpting the landscape with an invisible force, and carrying with it the memory of countless ages. Imagine Siberian villages with their sturdy wooden houses, the izbas, whose dark logs and sloping roofs defy the drifting snow and biting winds. They seem to have emerged from a distant past, a sepia photograph from centuries ago, untouched by the frenzy of the outside world. The paradox lies here. While their fundamental form and construction principles, the ingenious use of local timber, the meticulous thermal insulation, the wood-burning stoves that are the beating, heat-radiating heart of each home, are ancient legacies. Each new izba built is an adaptation. The design is frozen in its proven effectiveness, but the choice of specific woods for greater durability, the improved sealing techniques to combat the tiniest gaps, even the subtle integration of a solar panel on the roof to charge a phone or turn on a lamp, reveal a quiet and constant evolution. It is not a sudden break with the past, but an intelligent continuity, where the old is improved and reinterpreted by the new, without ever losing its vital essence and its deep connection with the land. This persistence of the old is not a reluctance to embrace progress, but a deep, practical wisdom, dictated and relentlessly validated by the environment. Siberian nature is a harsh and unforgiving teacher. It does not forgive mistakes or ineffective solutions. Thus, the strategies and solutions that have worked for countless generations are maintained, not out of blind adherence to tradition, but because they are unquestionably the most efficient and reliable for survival in such conditions. Consider nomadic peoples, such as the Evenks or the Nenets, whose lives still revolve around reindeer husbandry and herding. Their seasonal migration routes, the ingenious construction of their conical tents, the chums, their almost symbiotic dependence on their animals. All of this harks back to time immemorial, a way of life that echoes the earliest inhabitants. However, the modern reindeer herder can use a snowmobile to cover vast distances in search of pasture, a two-way radio to communicate with other dispersed groups, or even a GPS device to navigate the vast, homogeneous snow steppes without getting lost. The core of their existence and their relationship with the land and animals is ancient, imbued with ancestral knowledge, but the tools and some strategies have evolved pragmatically to optimize their resilience and efficiency. The paradox is that tradition remains alive and incredibly relevant, precisely because it allows the flexibility to absorb innovations that serve the greater purpose of adaptation and survival. Human interactions in this environment are similarly shaped by this fascinating duality between the immutable and the mutable. Community is the bedrock of Siberian existence, an unshakable foundation. In a place where isolation can be fatal and resources scarce, cooperation is an unwritten law, a social imperative passed down from generation to generation through tales and examples. Mutual aid in times of need, the generous sharing of scarce resources, the collective knowledge of how to weather a devastating snowstorm or find food in a harsh winter. These are practices that seem timeless in their essence. They are frozen in their vital importance, but the way they are expressed and executed can change. A neighbor who helps repair the roof of an izba may now use a power tool, but the spirit of camaraderie and unconditional solidarity is the same as it was centuries ago. The extreme environment not only shapes individual and collective survival strategies, but also forges social bonds, making them as indestructible and resilient as the permafrost that sustains the Earth itself. Adaptive evolution in Siberia is not a frantic, blind race toward the future, but a patient, conscious dance between the deepest tradition and the most pragmatic innovation. It is the innate ability to understand that certain solutions, such as multi-layered reindeer skin clothing or diets rich in animal fat, remain unsurpassed in their effectiveness against the most penetrating cold. Ancestral wisdom, accumulated through countless generations of experimentation and survival, is a constant guide, a map for life that is read and reinterpreted with each new generation, ensuring that vital knowledge is never lost. The Siberian environment, with its cycles of harsh winters and short summers, acts as a natural and merciless filter, allowing only the most robust, ingenious, and adaptable strategies to persist and be transmitted. It tolerates nothing superfluous or inefficient, only what is essential for the continuity of life. Thus, what we witness in Siberia is not cultural or technological stagnation, but a deeply rooted and dynamic resilience, where past and present intertwine inextricably, creating a continuum of life. The icy landscapes hold secrets and whispers from thousands of years ago, but the life that pulses within them is vibrant and in constant, yet subtle, transformation. It is a powerful lesson that true adaptation is not about erasing what came before, but about building upon it with respect and intelligence, transforming historical memory into a solid and resilient foundation for the future. It is a testament to the unwavering tenacity of the human spirit in a world of extremes, where history is not something to be merely remembered, but lived every day. As we delve deeper into the paradox of a lived history in constant yet subtle transformation, it is now time to confront the frontiers, the horizons that, even for the most tenacious of communities, test the very essence of resistance. Siberia, with its imposing vastness, not only offers challenges but defines the limits of our ability to exist. Imagine yourself on an endless snowy plain, where heaven and earth meet in a blur, What you see is only a fraction of what exists. Beyond the reach of your vision stretch invisible barriers, as real as the icy mountains that dot the landscape. These are the limits of endurance in the heart of Siberia, shaped by an unforgiving geography and the logistics of isolated life. The metaphor of visibility is crucial here. What cannot be seen, the distance to the next settlement, the difficulty of transporting essential supplies, the vulnerability of a single line of communication, is as defining as the cold that cuts through the skin. Logistics is perhaps the most insidious of these invisible limits. In an environment where roads are often frozen rivers in winter and impassable swamps in summer, transporting anything from fresh food to medicine and spare parts for machinery becomes an epic feat. Every kilometer traveled is a victory over nature. Consider the fragility of supply chains. One accident, one prolonged snowstorm, and entire communities can be isolated for weeks. The ability to store and conserve resources becomes a vital art, a ballet of planning and foresight against the unpredictability of the weather. Siberian geography, with its permafrost that swallows roads and buildings, its vast taiga forests stretching for thousands of kilometers, and its icy steppes, imposes its own vetoes on expansion. Each new attempt at colonization, each infrastructure project, is a constant and arduous dialogue with the land itself, which yields only with great effort and ingenuity. Resources, in turn, are the currency of survival. Siberia is rich in minerals and energy. Yes, but the extraction and transportation of these resources are monuments to human tenacity. For the average resident, however, the question is more fundamental: how to obtain food, fuel for heating, and drinking water in an 8-month winter. Reliance on hunting, fishing, and gathering, though ancient, is a delicate dance with nature, where excess can lead to scarcity and failure can mean starvation. Isolation is not only physical, it is also a barrier to accessing services and opportunities that are taken for granted elsewhere. Education, specialized healthcare, connection to the outside world, all these become a luxury, a challenge to be overcome. These invisible barriers are not insurmountable walls, but rather force fields that require continuous adaptation and an extra dose of ingenuity. The possibility of expansion, of pushing these limits, lies in the ability to innovate, to build new bridges, literal and figurative, to develop technologies that make the impossible merely improbable. It's like trying to light a fire in the midst of a storm. The flame is small, fragile, but with the right protection and constant care, it can grow, radiate heat and light, and even guide others. Siberia teaches us that the true limit is not what nature imposes, but what the human mind accepts. And in this vast land of ice and resilience, the human mind refuses to accept any limit as final. The frozen horizons and the human mind's refusal to accept limits as final, we now face an even more intriguing paradox: the accelerated expansion that challenges and at times seems to transcend the very logistical and environmental boundaries we discussed. It is as if Siberia, with all its relentless resistance, were a vast elastic canvas, stretched to its limit by the inexhaustible human will to explore, extract, and inhabit. The paradox lies here. How is it possible that in an environment where every step is a battle against extreme conditions, where logistics is a puzzle of epic proportions, we have witnessed such vigorous growth, such audacious advancement? The answer lies in a combination of fundamental rules of human necessity, driven by increasingly sophisticated technology and a determination that knows no pause. It is not a slow, organic growth like moss clinging to rocks, but an expansion that, like a conveyor belt, accelerates the pace of occupation, moving over obstacles that once seemed insurmountable. Imagine entire cities, industrial complexes, and transportation networks stretching across vast expanses that, just a few decades ago, were considered uninhabitable. This elastic canvas of Siberian life is constantly tested. Each new diamond mine in Yakutia, each oil field in the tundra, each stretch of railway that cuts through the taiga stretches this canvas a little further. Technology, in this scenario, acts as the engine of this conveyor belt. Machines capable of operating in subarctic temperatures, construction techniques that defy permafrost, satellite communication systems that connect the most remote points, and advanced resource extraction methods all accelerate the process of domesticating Siberia. They create an illusion of control, that limits can be pushed indefinitely. However, this rapid growth brings with it a delicate and sometimes precarious balance. The balance between what technology enables and what the sustainability of the environment and human life truly demands. The momentum of growth can be overwhelming, promising prosperity and overcoming logistical challenges with brilliant engineering, but it also reveals deep vulnerabilities. The fragility of Arctic and subarctic ecosystems, which recover slowly from any intervention, is one such vulnerabilities. The melting of permafrost due to climate change and human activity threatens the stability of buildings and pipelines, creating a cycle of vulnerability that demands constant innovation. Traditional communities, who have lived in harmony with the land for millennia, see their ways of life transformed, sometimes irrevocably, by the inexorable march of industrial development. Innovations in this context are both the cause and the response to these vulnerabilities, building on deep piers to prevent permafrost melting, developing new materials more resistant to extreme cold, and using airlift logistics to keep supplies in isolated areas. All of these are testaments to human ingenuity in action. But these innovations are also a constant reminder that the canvas is stretched thin, and that each breakthrough requires even greater vigilance to prevent it from snapping. The Siberian expansion is therefore a living paradox, a triumph of tenacity and technology, but also a continuous testing ground for the limits of sustainability. It shows us that accelerated growth, while impressive, demands constant readjustment and deep reflection on the true cost of transforming the impossible into the livable, and how far we can stretch the canvas of life before it begins to give way. It is a complex dance between human ambition and the resilience of nature, where each step forward reveals both our strength and our continued dependence on the delicate balance of the world around us. Now we turn to form itself, to the geometry that defines habitat and existence in this icy realm. It's easy, for a distant and uninformed eye, to imagine Siberia as a flat, homogeneous expanse, a blank canvas where life is drawn in straight, predictable lines. This simplistic view, however, fails to capture the complex, curved, closed, and, paradoxically, open reality that shapes every strategy, every route, and every evolution of human life here. Imagine the Siberian landscape not as a flat map, but as an intricate series of folds and contours invisible to the untrained eye. Flat geometry is the illusion of an infinite tundra or an endless taiga, where distance is the only measure, but the reality is a curved geometry, dictated by the subtle topography of frozen rivers that become roads in winter, by the undulating hills that offer shelter from the biting wind, by the patches of dense forest that protect settlements from the most intense cold. Hunting routes are not straight. They meander, following river valleys, animal trails, and mountain slopes that promise safer passage or vital resources. Human expansion itself does not follow a linear grid, but radiates in organic curves, adapting to the nuances of the terrain and the availability of water and firewood. It is a dance with the land, where the straight line is often the most dangerous path, and the curve, the smartest and safest strategy. Within this curved geometry of the landscape, the closed geometry of the Siberian habitat emerges. The izbas, with their thick wooden walls and steep roofs, are thermal fortresses, designed to retain every ounce of heat, creating a microclimate of life and security. Their form is a direct response to the need for maximum protection from the relentless exterior. They are like cocoons turned inward, where the wood-burning stove is the beating heart at the center, radiating warmth and life. The nomadic chums, conical structures made of reindeer skins, are similarly enclosed geometry, optimized for quick assembly and disassembly, yet offering an efficient and warm refuge from snowstorms and extreme cold. This closed geometry does not imply total isolation, but rather a strategic protection that allows life to thrive within, a sanctuary from the fury of the elements. And contradictorily, from this closed and curved geometry, an open geometry of communication and connection develops. In an environment where isolation can be fatal, maintaining communication routes and networks is crucial for survival and expansion. Rivers, when frozen, become winter highways, connecting distant communities. Hunting and trading trails stretch for hundreds of kilometers, uniting clans and villages. Today, this open geometry is complemented by satellites and communication technologies that literally open the Siberian sky to the world. allowing the whispers of a remote village to be heard anywhere on the planet. This network of roots and communications directly affects the evolution of communities, enabling the exchange of knowledge, the sharing of resources, and the diffusion of adaptive innovations. Expansion is not only territorial, but also of ideas and resilience. The influence of this geometry on all spheres of Siberian life is profound. It dictates survival strategies, where to build, how to travel, when to hunt. It shapes the evolution of tools and techniques, favoring those that align with the natural contours of the environment. It affects the very capacity for expansion, limiting it to places where human ingenuity can bend nature to its advantage. And crucially, it defines communication, ensuring that despite vast distances and physical isolation, the human spirit always finds a way to weave bonds, to keep networks alive, and to reaffirm that, even in the most unforgiving of geometries, life persists and thrives, adapting and redefining its own limits. Now is the time to feel the deepest pulse of this vast territory. Siberia is not just a space, it is a frozen time. A living memory machine where every snowflake, every rock, and every breath of wind seems to hold the whispers of bygone eras. It is, at its core, the preserved memory of human tenacity, an open book whose pages are written in ice and permafrost. Imagine it as a colossal reliquary, where unfathomable mysteries lie dormant beneath millennia of layers. The limits of our knowledge bend before the depth of time that Siberia holds. Who were the first to dare set foot on these lands? What secrets lie hidden in the ice tombs that occasionally reveal intact mammoths, their last meal still in their stomachs, or artifacts from forgotten civilizations, whose lives bore witness to the most radical adaptation? Each discovery is a whisper of the environment, an invitation to unravel the complex tapestries of nomadic cultures and ancestral settlements that flourished and transformed, leaving their indelible mark on the landscape and the spirit of those who came after. Siberia is a mirror that reflects the past in the present, the survival techniques of indigenous peoples passed down from generation to generation, the construction of resilient shelters, hunting and fishing in extreme conditions, the ingenious use of every natural resource are not mere traditions. They are the crystallization of millennia of trial and error, of resilience forged in the most intense cold. They are the voice of the past echoing in everyday life, teaching that true strength lies in harmony with the environment, not in its domination. The rivers that today serve as trade routes were once paths for hunters and explorers, their banks holding the remains of ancestral fires and the myths that narrate the origin of the world and the courage of the first heroes. This frozen land, with its long winters and short summers, transcends mere geography to become a repository of hope. It shows us that even in the face of seemingly eternal cold, overwhelming vastness, and seemingly insurmountable challenges, the human spirit finds ways to persist, innovate, and thrive. The whispers of the wind sweeping across the tundra are not only nature's lament, they are also a hymn of resilience, the promise that life in its most varied and tenacious forms will always find a way. Connecting the past, present, and future in Siberia is to understand that the lessons of adaptability are not static. They evolve, they are shaped, but their essence remains. Siberia's future, and by extension ours, is intrinsically linked to the ability to honor this preserved memory, to listen to the whispers of the environment, and to learn from the mysteries that still await unraveling. It is an invitation to reflect on our own capacity for resilience, to find warmth where there is cold, to build a home where nature imposes its most rigorous limits. Siberia is thus an inexhaustible source of inspiration, a poetic celebration of the human capacity to transcend the impossible, weaving a continuous thread of courage and hope through the frozen ages. Now it's time to go even further back, to the innermost depths of its existence. We will go beyond the layers of permafrost and the echoes of recent civilizations, seeking the background radiation of Siberian adaptation, that almost imperceptible but omnipresent murmur that precedes all known history, the primordial essence that shaped every fiber of life and resilience in this icy kingdom. Imagine Siberia as a miniature universe, and this background radiation is the echo of its own Big Bang, the energetic trace of the first human migrations that ventured into these icy expanses tens of thousands of years ago. These are not just stories, they are imprints left in time, in genetics, in the chipped stone tools found at archaeological sites that challenge our understanding of the limits of survival. Who were these pioneers? How did they manage not only to survive, but to thrive in an environment that still seems so inhospitable to us today? Their mysteries are the invisible foundations of Siberian tenacity. The search for these deep origins takes us back to a time when the planet was undergoing a process of geological cooling, shaping the glacial landscapes that defined Siberia. Our ancestors, rather than retreating, met this cooling with an expansion of their own ingenuity. Each new technique for hunting mammoths, each innovation in building shelters that retained vital heat, each method for processing hides and bones into clothing and tools, was a step in this expansion of human capacity to inhabit the impossible. They didn't just adapt, they became part of the cooling, learning to read its signals, to use its limited gifts, and to transform the harshness into home. Traces of these primordial eras persist, not only in bones and artifacts, but in behavioral patterns, in the deep respect for nature that still permeates indigenous Siberian cultures. The way the Evenks read the stars to navigate the taiga, or the way the Nenets manage their reindeer across the tundra, are direct echoes of ancestral knowledge, a cultural background radiation passed down from generation to generation. It is the wisdom of resilience that refuses to be forgotten, a constant reminder that solutions to today's challenges often lie in the lessons forged in the most extreme conditions of the past. This persistence of traits is proof that Siberian adaptation is not an isolated event, but a continuum, an unbreakable thread connecting cavemen to the modern engineer building cities on permafrost. Background radiation whispers to us that the human capacity to adapt, to transform hostile environments into habitable environments, is not a recent invention, but an inherent characteristic, as old as the icy mountains and frozen rivers of Siberia. It invites us to listen to these whispers, to feel the gravity of a past that still teaches us, and to recognize that even in the coldest and most isolated corners of the planet, the flame of human life has never been extinguished, only adapted, becoming stronger and more resilient with each passing era. It is cosmic proof that human ingenuity is, indeed, limitless. If until now we have delved into the primordial whispers of Siberian adaptation, unraveling the deepest origins and echoes of an almost cosmic resilience, the time has come to raise our gaze, to see Siberia not just as a place, but as a vast and imposing living record of human capacity. This realm of ice and permafrost, which so often seemed insurmountable, now reveals itself as the most eloquent of libraries, where every mountain, every frozen river, and every remote settlement holds a page in the extraordinary saga of human adaptation. Siberia is a silent testament to ceaseless innovation. From the first bonfires lit by forgotten ancestors, who learned to harness fire to ward off the cold and cook scarce food, to modern technologies that enable resource extraction in subarctic temperatures, each step has been a reinvention. We have seen how the architecture of izbas and chums bent to the demands of the environment, creating thermal refuges where life could thrive. Hunting, fishing, and reindeer herding techniques evolved not only as means of survival, but as expressions of a profound ecological intelligence, a continuous dialogue between man and nature. Siberian ingenuity is a constant melody of creative solutions, forged in the urgency of the cold and the need to transform the desolate into the sustainable. Daily life in these extremes is a tapestry woven with threads of courage and routine. It's not just the grandeur of heroic deeds that inspires us, but the daily persistence of millions of souls who wake up under gray skies and face biting winds with admirable serenity. It's the mother who prepares hot tea for her family, the hunter who follows the trails in the snow, the engineer who keeps infrastructure functioning under adverse conditions. Every gesture, no matter how simple, is an act of resilience, a reaffirmation of life against the indifference of the environment. Siberia teaches us that home is not just a physical place, but a state of mind, built on human warmth, solidarity, and the unshakable belief that beauty and purpose can be found even in the most challenging circumstances. And it is from this persistence, this daily dance with the limit, that the most profound lessons of hope emerge. Siberia, in its unforgiving vastness, is not a place of despair, but a beacon that illuminates the tenacity of the human spirit. It shows us that even when nature imposes its most rigorous limits, Humanity finds within itself an inexhaustible source of strength to go beyond, to transform the impossible into the possible. It is hope that manifests itself in the aurora borealis dancing in the night sky, in the promise of a new day, in the persistence of the communities that for centuries have called this place home. With each story of pioneers who braved its forests, each community that flourished on its icy shores, each innovation that allowed life to persist, Siberia reveals itself as a mirror that reflects not only cold and isolation, but above all, infinite human capabilities. It invites us to look within, to recognize the same spark of adaptability within ourselves, to understand that the limits we perceive are often merely invitations to our own ingenuity. This extreme environment, in its wild beauty and relentless harshness, is the stage where humanity has written and continues to write its greatest epic of resistance, a poetic ode to the ability to transform the inhospitable into a home and challenge into a celebration of life. Remember that question we whispered at the beginning of our journey, about how human life not only persists but thrives in Siberia, where ice seems to govern every breath and isolation is a constant? That question that at first glance seemed as simple as the crunch of snow underfoot, but promised to reveal deep layers of adaptation. This was our silent compass, the starting point for unraveling how Siberian Russians cope with 5 degrees in isolation and much more. Throughout this journey, we realized that that question transcends mere survival. It invites us to see beyond persistence, to understand how the impossible is transformed into home, not by magic, but by the ingenuity and inexhaustible adaptability of the human spirit. It's not just about enduring the cold and isolation, but about flourishing, about building vibrant communities, about weaving a life rich in meaning and connection, even in the most remote corners of the planet. It's the art of transforming the insurmountable into the habitable, the hostile into the welcoming, the limit into the starting point for new discoveries. Siberia, then, is not just a vast territory of challenges and freezing temperatures, but an infinite testament to human ingenuity. It is a space that expands, not in geography, but in possibilities, in innovative ways that defy any fixed limits we can conceive. It is the poetry of resistance, the silent song of tenacity that manifests itself in every shelter, in every ancestral technique, in every smile shared under the northern lights. It is the ice that bends to human will, revealing that true expansion is not territorial but internal, a limitless capacity to reimagine and rebuild the world around us. We hope this journey of discovery, guided by the whispers of the ice and stories of resilience, has brought you a moment of profound relaxation, or perhaps a new perspective on the unwavering capacity to adapt. May you find peace in the very essence of questioning, in the beauty of solutions found, and in the inspiration that emanates from human resilience. May the images and stories of Siberia become a serene refuge in your mind, a reminder that even in extremes there is warmth, life, and hope. For Siberia, in its immensity and mysteries, continues to offer us this freedom to ask the big questions, to explore the true limits of humanity. It is an eternal invitation to reflect on our own strength and resilience. The questions never cease, and each snowflake that falls is an invitation to continue exploring the depths of resilience, the tenacity of life, and the inexhaustible capacity to build a home, no matter how challenging the environment. May you take with you the calm and inspiration of this journey, and may curiosity continue to guide you in your own discoveries. And so, our journey through the frozen depths of Siberia reaches its final stillness, but the lessons we carry echo far beyond the silence of the tundra. We begin with an intimate invitation, a whisper of human tenacity, and delve into the foundations of a universe where extreme cold and isolation seemed insurmountable barriers. We see the first bold footprints, the pioneering attempts that, against all odds, took root in frozen soil. We unravel the paradox of a land that seems immutable, but reveals itself to be a living tapestry of continuous adaptations, where history is a river flowing beneath the ice. We explored the horizons, the limits that tested the very essence of resilience, and were surprised by the accelerated expansion, a testament to the ingenuity that transcends logistical boundaries. We contemplated the invisible geometry of habitats, the structures that bend to the demands of the environment, and felt the deepest pulse of Siberia, a poetic synthesis of memory and time. Finally, We heard the primordial whispers, the background radiation of adaptation that connected us to our most distant ancestors, revealing that resilience is an ancestral flame, ever burning. In the end, the question that guided us, how do Siberian Russians cope with the 5°C isolation, found its answer not in a single solution, but in a mosaic of strategies. It's the vernacular architecture that embraces the cold, the technology that defies temperatures, the social organization that transforms isolation into community, the ancient wisdom that dictates the rhythm of life, and, above all, the unwavering strength of the human spirit. This is not a battle against nature, but a harmonious dance, where adaptation is the melody and persistence is the pace. The conflicts between man and the extreme environment were not resolved by domination, but by deep understanding and integration, transforming the hostile into a surprisingly welcoming and vibrant home. Siberia, with its icy challenges, is no longer an insurmountable mystery, but a mirror that reflects our own ability to create warmth and connection where there is only cold. So this journey wasn't just about Siberia, but about the very essence of what it means to be human. It's a celebration of the ability to transform the impossible into the possible, to find beauty in adversity, and to build unbreakable bonds in the face of loneliness. May the stories of courage and adaptability we share inspire in you a new appreciation for your own resilience, and may the calm of the ice bring you profound peace. Siberia teaches us that even in the coldest corners of our world and our inner selves, there is an inexhaustible source of strength and hope. And so our exploration concludes. If this journey of discovery and relaxation brought you a new perspective or a moment of serenity, please leave a like so more people can find this haven of knowledge and inspiration. Share your own reflections in the comments. What aspect of Siberian tenacity resonated most with you? Your participation helps build this community of explorers of the human spirit. And to not miss future journeys to the extremes of our planet and our minds, subscribe to the Glacial Sleepy channel and activate the bell. Together, we will continue to unravel the mysteries of adaptation and celebrate the infinite capacity for resilience that resides within each of us. The history of humanity is a story of overcoming, and each of us is a part of it.